Hi, I'm Mike Ferguson, Vice President with Harlan Clark Marketing Services and General Manager of Subscriber Mail. We're here today with Brad Strothkamp, Vice President and Principal Analyst with Forrester, to talk about how financial institutions can market more effectively to Gen Y customers with a multi-channel approach. And with that, I will pass it over to Brad.
Thanks, Mike, and welcome everyone. Exciting topic here to talk about today because it's a topic that comes up here a lot at Forrester, and what's happening with Gen Yers, our younger generation, and I think some misconceptions about them. They are, in fact, very avid multi-channel financial services customers using a litany of channels. In fact, when we look at our channel data specifically around how different generations and the number of channels they use, we can actually see that Gen Yers and Gen Xers are the biggest channel users, because they're using channels like mobile, they're using channels like online, in addition to using traditional channels like the phone, ATM, and the branch. In terms of the Internet and how they use the Internet, we can also see they're avid, as we probably would expect, Internet users from both a personal and work perspective, but especially from a personal perspective, using on average the Internet 11 hours a week, which is a significant amount and significantly more than older generations. That's important because as we start to think about this generation, even though they are multi-channel users, their primary channels are increasingly the web. In fact, when we ask them about banks' websites and what they want to do with their finances online, we can see that they make choices based on the quality of online services, and they also want to compare their finances against others like them. They know they haven't.
These responses that you've got in there seem to kind of corroborate the story that we've seen with helping banks, which is just the fact that they're using a specific channel or have a presence within a channel doesn't really create the value and relevance that some of these target Gen Yers are looking for, but really it equates to how they use the channel. Would you say that fits into your assessment as well?
Yeah, I think so, because I think what we're generally seeing is that the relative importance of the channel, even though the usage may be the same for older generations, the importance of the channel is quite a bit more for the Gen Y. So that's a really good point to talk about, is that it's not just usage, it's level of importance and satisfaction, other elements that Forrester tracks here. A question that comes up a lot right now is mobile financial services. It's one of the hottest topics out there right now in financial services. This shows across a number of different mobile activities, some of which are very hot now in advertisements and promotions, things like depositing checks. It's Gen Yers, even more than Gen Xers, that are interested in these types of services. So Gen Yers, very important, the digital channels, using all channels, but the digital channels are increasingly important to that generation. And then current Gen Y mobile bankers are more active than all other users. So not only are they, again, utilizing the channel, but its relative importance and the satisfaction with the channel are increasingly important. So as we begin to go out and talk to these different generations, and we talk to Gen Y specifically, it's important to recognize that it's a multi-channel relationship, but it's even more important to recognize the value of the digital channels and how that works with other aspects of their channel activity when it comes to financial services. When it comes to mobile functionality, it's having a significant impact on consumers' use of other channels, which is a topic that comes up quite a bit. How are the digital channels affecting other channels? We can see that right here when we see that consumers that use mobile channels use a phone less often. So this is cost reduction at its element, using the branch less often. This makes things like digital channels in terms of promotions even more important. Why? Because generally we're not going to see Gen Yers in the branch or on the phone. We're only going to see them through digital means. And so reaching out to them effectively becomes increasingly important. This is an interesting statistic. So we actually see that from a Gen Y perspective, if they use mobile banking, they actually use online banking more. So this runs, I think, a little bit contrary to how we might think. So while the offline channels are used less, the online channels are used more. So the overall digital relationship is increasing. And alerts are important to Gen Yers. So Gen Yers is a generation, it's important to understand that when it comes to financial services, their lives are increasing in terms of their complexity, but still a lot of times it's the first relationships that they have. And so they're a little bit uncertain. And so things like email alerts, text alerts, alerts via mobile app become more important because they, on a daily basis, in terms of how they conduct their financial lives, they're living their lives from paycheck to paycheck.
So, Brad, I'm curious here. What about using email and SMS not only as a customer service channel, but also as a marketing channel to drive new business? We work with quite a few banks in helping them manage their email and SMS, and we've found that you really have to be strategic when you do use the channels and using the targeted messaging, getting proper permission, delivering valuable content, and really also not overusing the channel or using it correctly is so important. Otherwise, the channel can lose its value pretty quickly. Have you seen the same thing?
Yeah, I think absolutely, Mike. I think it's important to understand, as I was saying before, that when it comes to generations like Gen Y, even some Gen Xers, it's important to understand that while they use multiple channels, they're far more likely to use the digital channels. So if you're not using email or SMS to reach out to them in some way, shape, or form, that may be your only contact with them. And so reaching out to them through those digital means is vitally important to selling additional products. And so that has to be an important part. If Gen Y as a generation is important to your organization, then that is an important aspect. But to your other point, which is also important, you have to realize that you want to consider what they want. And they don't want to be bombarded. So targeted information, knowing a lot about them, speaking specifically to their needs, to your point, Mike, I think are going to be extremely important in that. So that was just to give you a really just an initial sense of what's happening in the Gen Y generation. It is a very important generation because they are, our data shows, the most likely to be adding additional financial products to relationships. We can see that digital is important to them in addition to multi-channel itself. So reaching out to them proactively from a promotions perspective is going to be vitally important to this new and up-and-coming generation. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Brad. It was very insightful.